Hi everyone, it's Katrina. From the discovery that changed history to the mysterious death of the boy king, here are 10 fascinating facts about King Tut. Number 10. How did he come to rule? Tutankhamun, also known as Tutankhamen and more easily King Tut, is arguably the most famous pharaoh in the modern world. Also called the Child King, his rule is known for having reversed many of the drastic changes his father, Pharaoh Akhenaten, had made in ancient Egypt. Akhenaten, formerly Amenhotep IV before he changed his name, had led a religious revolution, rejecting the gods of old and promoting the worship of one single god, Aten. Aten is the radiant disk of the sun, originally an aspect of the god Ra. Due to the strained relationship between the pharaoh and the priests, Akhenaten moved the capital from Thebes to Akhetaten, Amarna, where he could work on this new state religion. The religious elite and general population of Egypt was not very happy with this change. The son of Akhenaten, King Tut became pharaoh at the age of 9, and early on in his reign, the old gods were reinstated. It was believed that Egypt was going through hard times because the old gods had been ignored during the reign of his father. He restored Thebes as a religious center, allowed his people to revert to the worship of the old gods, reopened the temples, and allowed the priests to practice once more. Since he was just a child, it is believed that King Tut wasn't truly in power, though, and may have been just a figurehead. He worked with powerful advisors to make Egypt a powerful force in the region once more. Horemheb and Ai, a high-ranking official of Tut's predecessor and the successor to the throne. Both of these men later became future pharaohs. He was one of the last rulers during the 18th dynasty of the New Kingdom, one of the most powerful and prosperous times of ancient Egypt. But King Tut became a celebrity after his tomb was discovered and had more influence during the 20s and 30s than he ever had in his lifetime. Why do you think we are all so fascinated by King Tut? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Number 9. Name change. King Tut is undoubtedly one of the most famous of the Egyptian pharaohs, but his name changed throughout his life. Originally, when he began his reign, he was called Tutankhaten, which means the Living Image of Aten. This was in honor of the sun disk god Aten because, as I mentioned, his father was clearly affected by the sun disk, and his father had changed his name, so why not everyone else? He chose to change his name, however, at a time when he was about to abandon the city of Akhetaten and return to Thebes to reinstate the worship of the old gods. His new full moniker was Tutankhamun Hekayunu Shima. You Egyptologists can help me with the pronunciation in the comments. This translates to mean the living image of Amun, ruler of Heliopolis of Upper Egypt. Egyptian custom was to write names with the god first as a mark of respect, so they would refer to him as Amen Tut Ankh. To further confuse things, King Tut also had a throne name, Nebkheperure, which means Lord of Manifestations is Ra, and may be the pharaoh referred to in the Amarna letters, a set of tablets found in 1887 as Nuburerea. Makes everything a challenge for archaeologists and Egyptologists, that's for sure. Luckily for us, though, King Tut is an easy nickname, and it's easy to pronounce for everyone around the world. Number 8. Confusing family tree. As was quite common with the ruling classes in ancient Egypt, King Tut's family was a complicated affair. His wife, Ankhesenamun, his half-sister and cousin, was 2 years younger than him. They both had the same father, the previous pharaoh, Akhenaten, but this is just the start of the royal inbreeding. Akhenaten was also King Tut's uncle because he had a child with his sister known as the Younger Lady, whose remains were found mummified within Akhenaten's tomb. As a side note, the mysterious and legendary beauty Nefertiti was Akhenaten's main wife and King Tut's stepmother. The limited gene pool had consequences, and as we'll see, King Tut had a number of physical deformations. He would have been quite frail and needed a cane to walk. DNA studies say that he was greatly affected by a bone disorder and also severely suffered from malaria, which weakened him even further. Sadly, he and his wife had 2 stillborn children, whose mummified remains were found alongside King Tut's when his tomb was opened. Number 7. How did he die? King Tut's death at the age of 18 or 19 was the beginning of the end of the 18th dynasty of Egypt's ruling classes, but there's still debate about how his life came to such an end. How do you think he died? Let me know in the comments below. There are many theories. X-rays and CT scans of his body have revealed evidence of extreme trauma. However, they have completely disproved the popular theory that he was murdered by a blow to the head. His ribs were damaged and seemingly removed during the mummification process, along with a breastbone, and he had a broken leg. Researchers have suggested a number of ways in which these injuries could have occurred, and we may never know the truth. Some believe that he died while taking part in one of the Egyptian king's favorite pastimes, hunting. Could he have crashed while racing a chariot, or even been struck by a speeding chariot as he knelt on the ground? Others think it was the result of an encounter with a Nile hippopotamus, an animal that's now extinct but was alive during the time of the ancient Egyptians. The creatures are more than powerful enough to inflict deadly injuries on a person, in line with the damage seen on Tut's body. Other theories include the idea that he could have been kicked by a horse, or even that he may have died naturally from disease, and the damage that's been observed was as a result of thieves trying to remove valuable stones. Scientists believe that based on the CT scan, it is most likely that his thigh fracture became infected and was ultimately fatal. Number 6. His deformities. Tutankhamun was a frail young man who would have required assistance with all physical activities. As a result of the inbreeding within his family, the boy king had significant deformities. He had, for example, a club foot, so-called feminine hips, and a pronounced overbite. Genetic testing of his remains has shown that he suffered from Kohler's disease, a rare disorder that affects the development of bones in the foot. This would have caused extreme pain to him throughout his life and explains why he was known for remaining seated while shooting an arrow. His tomb contained more than 130 staffs and walking sticks, which also supports the idea that he was unable to walk unaided. One of the many amazing things found in his tomb was a threefold bed, a cot of sorts that had very sophisticated technology that folded up the bed into a Z shape. This camping bed was very comfortable, and even though he was unable to participate in long expeditions, it is most likely that it was made especially for him so he could go hunting and camping despite his many health issues. Number 5. The discovery that changed history. Lord Carnarvon, an English aristocrat, was responsible for funding the expedition that found the hidden tomb of King Tut. He made his fortune through marriage, having wed an illegitimate daughter of the wealthy Rothschild family, and soon developed a passion for owning racehorses and early motor cars. He and his family often spent their winters in Egypt, partly under medical advice after a severe injury he sustained from car racing, and this is how he became fascinated with Egyptology. In 1907, he hired Howard Carter, an archaeologist, to excavate a series of tombs near Thebes, and this would be the beginning of a successful working partnership. They began searching the Valley of the Kings for important finds in 1914, but were forced to suspend their investigations during the First World War. Resuming towards the end of 1917, Howard Carter, still backed by Carnarvon's money, had little success and was about to give up the search in 1922, if it hadn't been for the fact that they discovered the most significant find in recent archaeology, King Tut's tomb. According to accounts from the time, Carter had suspected there was something of significance in the region, with previous digs having discovered some Tutankhamun funerary artifacts, but it was a water boy who stumbled over the stone that was found to be the top of a flight of steps cut into the bedrock. Excavating the staircase led them to the entrance of the tomb, and the rest was history. Carter sent a telegram with the message, "At last we have made a wonderful discovery in the valley, a magnificent tomb with seals intact, recovered same for your arrival. Congratulations." Carnarvon and his daughter immediately made the trip to Egypt, where they were present for the opening of the tomb in late November 1922. This would be one of Lord Carnarvon's last acts because he died soon after under a shroud of mystery. Number 4. His tomb. Known as KV62, King Tut's tomb is located toward the east of the Valley of the Kings. When discovered, it was one of the most intact tombs to have ever been discovered. The seals had not been broken, and the only evidence of intruders came from a time soon after the king had been buried. Howard Carter, Lord Carnarvon, and their team were the first people in modern times to enter the site. The tomb itself was laid out in a way similar to those for private individuals, not royalty, which led to the conclusion that King Tut's burial was somewhat rushed. The 16 steps led down to an entrance corridor, which itself led to an antechamber. The room was used to store material left over from the funeral, along with objects used in the embalming process of the king. In recent years, it's been claimed that there are further rooms hidden behind walls, with King Tut's tomb suggested to be just the beginning of a much wider burial complex. Ground-penetrating radar suggests there may be 2 voids next to the burial chamber, but recent sonar tests have disproved this notion. The Egyptian ministry responsible for the preservation of the tomb announced in 2018 that there is nothing further to investigate. So, for now at least, it's believed the entire tomb has been uncovered. But now onto the treasures, which I know is why you're here. Number 3. The treasures. King Tut's tomb was undisturbed by robbers except for those that entered soon after his burial, and so it was full of stunning treasures. There were so many objects that Howard Carter and his team only finished cataloging everything in 1932, 10 years after his initial discovery. In total, 5,398 items were recovered. The walls of the burial chamber were decorated with images of the king's voyage to the underworld, and the chamber contained 4 gilded shrines, within which was a red quartzite sarcophagus, which contained 3 nesting coffins, with King Tut's mummy being in the innermost one. 3 models of luxury ships were found in the tomb. There was a face mask, golden thrones, archery bows, trumpets, a lotus chalice, and even fresh linen undergarments. One of the most interesting objects was Tutankhamun's iron dagger, which recent tests have shown to be made from a meteorite. Other treasures included a hand-carved statue of Anubis, a headrest, canopic jars that contained his organs that had been removed during mummification, a gold-gilded fan, and hundreds of more statues, pendants, weapons, paintings, and other things, including his personal game of Senet, a popular Egyptian board game. Most of the treasures have since been removed from the tomb and displayed in museums around the world. The one thing that remains there and can be viewed by visitors to the Valley of Kings is King Tut's body, which has stayed in place ever since its discovery, although now moved a few feet into a climate-controlled case. Number 2. The Curse. The curse of the pharaohs had long been spoken about before the discovery of King Tut, and mention of a curse has been found in various tombs. King Tut's tomb, however, had no mention of a curse, but a series of deaths made people's imaginations run wild. The first strange death was that of Carter's benefactor, Lord Carnarvon. He had been bitten by a mosquito, and the bite got infected, and he died soon after. This happened within 5 months of the tomb's opening, and fueled by media speculation around the world, began the fear of the curse. Even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the writer of Sherlock Holmes, suggested that his death was as a result of elemental magic created by King Tut's priests. Following Carnarvon's death, there were another 10 deaths, including that of Howard Carter in 1939, that had been linked with the curse of the pharaohs. Some died because of mysterious illnesses, some were murdered, and there was one case of suicide. Scientists have tried to explain the curse with non-magical means, with some suggesting it could be a result of fungal spores released from ancient tombs. Still, there's no evidence to suggest the curse exists at all. With the number of people who entered the tomb after its discovery, the number of deaths are actually statistically expected across a population. In fact, most went on to live perfectly healthy and long lives. Number 1. His legacy. King Tut's short reign had a bigger impact on Egyptian society than you might expect. He changed the direction of religious beliefs, reverting things to the way they had been before his father's rule, and he was one of the last pharaohs of the 18th dynasty. That's all well and good, but it's perhaps his rediscovery that has had a bigger cultural impact. He reawakened an interest in Egyptology, and still to this day fuels the imagination of people around the world. He's the poster child for preservation, highlighting the delicacy of ancient artifacts and the importance of taking care of them for future generations. Various techniques have been designed specifically for King Tut's corpse, for example, to protect it, and these will be invaluable for any future tombs that are found. The purpose of such lavish burial rituals was to ensure that those who had died would live on in the afterlife and have everything that they need. The Egyptians had a saying, "To speak a man's name is to make him live forever." With the amazing story around King Tut's rediscovery and the continued interest in the boy king, he's destined to live on far beyond our own lifetimes. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!